Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Trump fraud ruling reveals New York's assault on real estate. Mr. Wonderful says, move your business out. Mr. Wonderful is Kevin O'Leary. He's on Shark Tank. They call him that jokingly. West Virginia, Florida, and North Dakota are winter states for business. California, New York, and New Jersey are loser states. Now, let's take a look. There's two clips from Kevin O'Leary. Let's do the first one. Is an interview on Fox.
Yesterday in New York, you may have read about it. Crooked judge, crooked judge. He's a crooked judge. By a radical left-wing judge was a lawless and unconstitutional atrocity. It's a sham case. There were no victims, no defaults, no damages, no complaints, no nothing. There was nothing.
Well, that was...
Now, I want to ask a question first before we start this, especially the Democrats out there. If this was Mark Cuban, who believes in DEI and diversity hires and everything else, he's been all over the news, Twitter, everywhere, would people be as lackadaisical? But since it's Trump, it's okay. Targeting individuals with legislation and twisting the meaning and creating legislation to target people is against New York state law. I should know. I was a councilman in upstate New York in Binghamton in the early 2000s for 8 years. And a couple of ordinances that I put together concerning junk cars and cleaning up the city. And there was one major offender. And I had to make sure that individual wasn't targeted by this ordinance as per our city attorney and the attorneys in Albany. So I know. So let's listen to what Kevin has to say.
Former President Donald Trump slamming the judge who fined him more than $350 million in that New York civil suit. He's far from the only one questioning the merits of that case. Our next guest says that it might spur a mass exodus business-wise from the Empire State. Let's bring in O'Leary Ventures chairman and Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary. It looks like all roads have brought us to Mr. Wonderful this morning. It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. So part of the judgment here, it's not just the dollar amount. Donald Trump is barred from operating a business in New York for 3 years. One of my questions is, all right, let's say this all stands 3 years down the line. Why on earth would he want to come back here to do business after this?
Well, this case really isn't just about Donald Trump. This is an assault on the 11th sector of the S&P 500, which is real estate. Step back and think about what this means for the state of New York. Development of real estate creates millions of jobs in America. And once the buildings are stabilized and rented out or used for commercial real estate or whatever, they generate cash flow and they're put into REITs. And you and I invest in those. Retirees invest in them, and that's how they get income. That's why it became the 11th sector of the S&P. It's so important to the American economy. Very few sectors generate as much cash as this does. And so if you're a developer, you're an entrepreneur, you go to a bank and you say, look, I want to borrow $200 million to build a building. And they say, well, what assets do you have we can secure this loan against? And you point to a building you built before. And you haggle and you argue about the value of that building. This goes on in every city on earth. That's how real estate developers who are entrepreneurs and take risk borrow money. That's exactly what happened here. Now, all of a sudden, after this is built successfully and finished, for some reason, this judge takes it upon himself to fine this developer. Forget that it's Trump. This is not about Trump anymore. If you're a developer and you see this happen in the state of New York, why would you take the risk to put up this much money and have a judge arbitrarily decide that you are in some form of breach of fraud when no damages occurred at all? And this is the same.
Now, he didn't point out, and I think it's worth pointing out, the fact that there's going to be real estate developers in cities like New York City forever. And what's going to happen is this. They're going to be developers like Trump and all the other real estate development corporations and put up buildings, hire people, construction, you name it. They call that a multiplier effect, where you hire hundreds of people and thousands benefit from it. Now, saying that, what's going to happen in the future, if you want to build in New York, we've always had business people that give contributions to elected officials. It's legal up to a certain amount. It's always been that way since the beginning of time. They have a stake in what elected officials do that affects their business. I get it. I used to be a businessman for 22 years. Now, having said that, what will happen now in New York, they're going to end up hiring DEI hiring. In other words, a certain percent of electricians are this race or this gender or trans or whatever. A certain amount of plumbers, drywall people, the works, you name it, carpenters, everybody, steel workers. The list is endless of these union jobs, but they're going to say, well, we're going to hire 17% African American, 5% LGBT, and they're going to go through the list, and they're going to be okay. And that's what's going to happen. People that think that's okay are kidding themselves. You want the best people that are available. If the best happens to be someone that's part of the LGBT community, then so be it. If that person is best is non-white, then so be it. Who cares? Businessmen don't care about race or gender. Even though Mark Cuban runs his mouth, believe me, when the bottom line comes, he's worried about the only color he sees is green. Just like any other businessman. Doesn't make them evil. Let's listen on.
Same process that occurs everywhere. This is about the competition of states. I thought before this judgment that the #1 loser state in America was California, which is basically putting itself out of business slowly and surely. But after this judgment, I'm going to make New York the #1 loser state, followed by California, then Massachusetts, New Jersey, Michigan. These are places where taxes are not competitive. Delaware, for example, is now on the loser state list because it's unstable policy on the Elon Musk decision. You don't have to put your money into places where this kind of thing happens. Each of us as investors, we vote with our capital. Why punish a great state because it doesn't happen to be on the east or west coast? I say go to Florida, go to Texas, go to North Dakota, Oklahoma, West Virginia. These are winner states. Why go to a loser state like New York?
Well, I think a lot of people are doing precisely that, not just with their businesses, but with their families as well. Kevin, we were quoting yesterday, the Associated Press said they could not find another case like this in 70 years under this law, the application of this law in New York. Have you ever seen anything like we just witnessed from this judge and this AG?
No, I never.
No, this isn't about applying the law evenly. This is about eliminating Donald Trump, destroying his businesses, and stop him from running for president again. Make no mistake. I'm creeping closer and closer to leaving. I live in upstate New York. And as you see up in the right-hand corner, the thumbnail, I circled and put an arrow, the city that I live in, right above the Pennsylvania border. I'm at least 2 hours, if not longer, away from New York City, thank God. But unfortunately, this progressive virus has infiltrated here locally. Our city council now has 7 Democrats, 6 of them are ultra progressives. The new New York State senator is a progressive. And so this cancer is slowly seeping in everywhere that's not New York City. I'm sure the same thing has happened in Illinois from Chicago, in LA, in Northern California, and we go through all the so-called blue states that are really only one big city. Pennsylvania comes to mind with Philadelphia and their cancer of progressiveness coming out of there, and Baltimore and Maryland, and the list goes on and on and on. Luckily, states like Texas and Florida, Austin doesn't affect the rest of the state. It's like Portland and Oregon and Seattle and Washington State. They make the rules for the rest of the state, even though they are polar opposites in culture. They're not big cities. They're more rural communities, but they don't care. They want control and tell you what to do. Let's read on, because I've got another video with Kevin O'Leary coming up. Forget about the Trump factor. It's not about that. What does this say to everybody that wants to work in New York and wants to risk capital? Remember, the New York State Pension Fund and every single pension fund from all the unions and every single state is invested in things like this. The same with insurance companies. You think insurance companies make money just from the premiums? If the insurance companies had to rely on premiums to make money, they'd all be out of business. They invest the capital from the premiums, and that helps pay claims made against the insurance company, but also makes money. This is the way the world works, and it's always worked that way. Everybody that wants to do work in New York and wants to risk capital, this judge arbitrarily decided this is the right amount. I don't understand. No developer does. Like I said, the only developers you're going to get are developers that come out and say, we are going to do DEI hires for our construction people on this. And there's so many different subcontractors. I don't know how you would do it. It'd be a nightmare. New York is already a loser state. I am so torn. Both of my children live outside of New York. One lives in Florida, one lives in Virginia. Now, having said that, both of my parents are passed away. My mother recently passed away in October. I have one brother left here, my closest relative, and I have several cousins. I've been saying for years I want to move to Tennessee. It's heartbreaking for me because I don't want to leave the place where I grew up, where all my memories are. It's hard. And plus, I'm single. It's more difficult for single people my age, I'm 67, than it is for somebody with a partner and or married. It's tough by yourself. And Kevin goes on, to talk about what he said. There are winner states and there are loser states. California, formerly at the top of the list, has been putting itself out of business slowly but surely. Yes, slowly, drip by drip, drop by drop, it's bleeding itself. They had a huge amount of billions coming in from the COVID money. And now they have a multi-billion-dollar deficit. Now they have programs that give all illegal migrants free health care. It's amazing to me. It's incredible. No one should touch New York. And corporation-wise is absolutely right. Payne said $1 trillion in business has already left New York, largely for Florida and Texas, and that with Manhattan skyscrapers around 50% capacity, it appears unlikely they will return to full use. Yeah, there's a reason for that. It is not COVID either. Payne added New York's crime crisis and ever-increasing regulations are keeping businesses out of states. You had this in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s, when Rudy Giuliani became mayor and he cleaned up Times Square. And even the people that hated his guts said he did a good job. It's amazing to me. Absolutely incredible. Now let's check out another video from Kevin O'Leary talking about the fine for Trump and Trump Enterprises' business. And some of it's the same stuff, but some of it isn't, because I think he is, the real estate people are so shocked. So shocked. Money has been leaving New York by the billions for years. When Donald Trump decided to change his residency to Florida, remember that about a year or so ago, 2 years? Everybody said, good, help the SOB leaves, blah, 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 blah. Even Andy Cuomo said, whoa, wait a minute. You want the very rich people, especially billionaires, to leave New York State? Do you dumbasses know who pays most of the taxes in New York? It's the rich people, you dumbasses. Yeah, we hate Trump. We hate all rich people. They're all scumbags. But they pay most of the bills in New York State. Even Andy Cuomo said, I'm not happy about Trump leaving or any other rich person. They pay the bills. Let's listen on.
This award, just leaving the whole Trump thing out of it and seeing what occurred here, and I'm no different than any other investor. I'm shocked at this. I can't even understand or fathom the decision at all. There's no rationale for it. And so let me give you a real-time experience I'm having regarding this, and I'm not the only one. It doesn't matter what the governor says. New York was already a loser state.
Now, what he's referring to is Governor Hochul, who took over after Andy Cuomo resigned and then won election last November. And Lee Zeldin, the Republican, did extremely well in a deep blue state like New York. He came within less than 10 points, if I'm not mistaken, from memory, which is unheard of in New York. Well, it's just a symptom of the sickness, of the disease. But Hochul said, have no fear, real estate developers and investors. This is just a one-off. We won't be coming after you. Oh, really? Can you guarantee that? Would you go after funding and investors for billions of dollars or hundreds of millions for a single building and risk going through what Trump went through? Would you? You've got to hire X amount of this and X amount of that and every regular. No, I wouldn't do it because there's other opportunities. Like he said, Nashville is the fastest growing city in the country. Florida, Texas, North Dakota, West Virginia, you name it. They are attracting business by the droves. Tennessee as well, where I might go. And I don't want to go. By all my memories, my entire life has lived in this city. I've represented part of it in city council for 8 years. It would break my heart for me to leave, but I might have to. Because what's next? Channels like mine, they don't like what I have to say, so they come after you? What's next? Everybody thinks this is about Trump. They are going as far as they possibly can for power and control. It's like anything else. They get away with this, they're going to get away with something worse next time. And on and on and on. And no one is safe. Believe me, whether you're working part-time at a grocery store or a multi-billion-dollar real estate investor.
Like California is a loser state. There are many loser states because of policy, high taxes, uncompetitive regulation. It was already on the top of the list of being a loser state. I would never invest in New York now, and I'm not the only person saying that. And here's a real-time situation. In development in real estate right now, the hottest asset class is very high-end data centers. They cost anywhere from $2.5 to $3.5 billion each. They're very expensive. They require low power. You need permits. But most of the major institutions in the world need more data centers, and that's why developers like me are doing this. Now, you need power. So New York has Niagara Falls. Normally, you'd consider that to put in one of these facilities, create 400 jobs, 5 more jobs for each of one of those for auxiliary services. I can't go to New York. So I'm going to Oklahoma, North Dakota, West Virginia. Governors.
That's the other thing. Places like New York, California, Illinois, all the deep blue states, their electricity and natural gas costs are through the roof. And when you're dealing with high-end places, like he said, data centers, which is going to use tremendous amounts of electricity, you're paying the top of the line of the country, maybe even the world, excluding maybe Tokyo and a few other countries, but the highest in the country of the U.S. Why would you do that? We have the highest utility rates, some of them in the country, in New York State now. Why would you invest all those billions and then turn around and pay those high costs, which are costs there forever and they never go down? The same with property taxes. Between city, county, and school taxes, it's through the roof. It's double and in some cases triple than other states. It's bloodletting is drop by drop. Let's listen.
Stitt, Kevin Stitt, my staff have met with him. Governor Burgum, the same thing. Governor Justice. Those are winner states. They don't do things like this. I have to syndicate that debt and all that equity. We're talking billions of dollars here. Do you think any foreign institution or any private equity firm or any pension fund would touch New York? No. And that's why New Yorkers should be concerned. The fine people of New York should ask themselves, why are we such a loser state? How are we going to attract business? It's not just the existing businesses that are fleeing out to Texas and Florida. What about new money like this that I'm talking about? Like
Well, yeah. How about it, New York residents? Because New York City runs the state. Yes, we have our local elected officials, but the Democrats have every tentacle and everything on upstate, and the cancer is slowly spreading. These are the same New York City people that voted in the current city council and mayor that are now screaming and hollering, just like Chicago, that they're being displaced by illegal migrants. Illegal migrants. And they're having a fit, but you know what? They'll all vote for Hochul again if she runs, or people just like her, the governor of New York. They'll still vote for people just like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, and they'll still vote Democrat. They'll still do it. And meanwhile, they're bitching the whole time because they're just brain dead. They're brain dead. They're part of a cult. And, you know, if you want to bring yourself down financially, morally, socially, then do it. But don't take the rest of us that are decent people in New York with you. Let's listen to the rest.
$4 billion data center. Not a chance I would put that in New York. Zero probability. Never. And so they've got a lot of work to do to find themselves getting out of this situation. This has all occurred post-pandemic. Winner states versus loser states. Look at Tennessee right now. Fastest growing city in America, Nashville. Winner state. Good policy. Competitive taxes. You've got to start thinking about this in the context of winners and losers. New York, mega loser state.
So, Kevin, what did you think of Governor Hochul saying this is like a unique one and done because Donald Trump went too far and was so nefarious? You guys, if you're just doing what you should be doing, you have nothing to worry about. But they're very worried about it.
And they are too. Would you believe Governor Hochul? Would you believe her, honestly? If you were a big businessman investing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars? Would you believe it? I wouldn't. Would you take the risk? Investing in real estate and building buildings is a lot of risk on its own merit, let alone that. Who's to say who saw this coming? Say 2 years ago, who saw this coming? No one. And they won't see it coming either until the Attorney General, who ran on getting Donald Trump and then turned around and pulled this, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. All the courts are all skewed with progressive Democrat cancer. This judge is a joke. He smirked at TV camera like the whole thing's a joke. They're getting their 15 minutes of fame by getting a former president and trying to stop a former president from being president again. It's disgusting and despicable. And they're taking millions with them.
Yeah, we're very worried. Every investor's worried because where is the victim? Who lost money? This is some arbitrary decision a judge made. This policy and what this says, what does this say about the bar, the legal bar in New York? Aren't they going to question this judge? What is this? $355 million and there's dollars as a penalty and there's plus interest at 9% and there's...
Yeah, and where's the oversight? Where's the oversight on this judge? Where's the oversight on the Attorney General of New York State? Where is it? Where's the check and balance? Where is it? Just like in Fulton County in Georgia with Fannie Willis. Where is the oversight? It's nowhere. The people, we'll put it this way. The same thing, the people there in 1930s Germany. I'm not saying they were like them, but the tactics are the same. It's fascist. It's fascism. When corporations and government merge, which is they're trying to do in this country and especially in New York, to control corporations, who they hire and where they invest. Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy, said, when the government and corporations merge, not just complement each other and help each other out, but actually merge and become one. That is, by definition, fascism.
No victim? I mean, I'm sorry, her words fall on deaf ears to everybody. There's nothing she can say to justify this decision. And this has nothing to do with Trump. Nothing to do with Trump.
That's right. It has nothing to do with Trump.
Forget about Trump. This is not a Trump situation. This is a New York problem now. The whole world is looking at this saying, what are you doing to yourselves?
Well put.
Exactly right. Kevin, I couldn't agree more. What are you doing to yourselves? Rather than let Donald Trump run for president or even be president again, we would rather stand in our own house, stand in the middle of it, and light it on fire and burn it all down so he can't get it, or anybody we don't like that doesn't agree with our policies and our progressive Democrat cancer. If we can't have it, you can't either. They'll burn their own house down with them standing in it, rather than let somebody else make money off it and not do it their way. That sound familiar? Oh, crack open a history book. You can go back 2,000-3,000 years in some cases. It's the same thing over and over. Humans don't change, whether it's 1000 BC or 2024 AD. People are still the same. Given the opportunity, they will railroad you. They will seek power and destroy the people that get in their way. Before I start getting any madder, I know the video's gone too long now already. What do you think? It's breaking my heart, and I might have to leave New York. Anyway, folks, until next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.